All right, here we are at Shed Talk. I am joined with Kevin Lawrence, top leadership coach, best-selling author who spent nearly 30 years helping high-performance men handle pressure, avoid burnout. And for every man that can't handle burnout, make sure that they're strong.
Creating curiosity by asking better questions. This is Shed Talk.
You know what, Kevin? Thanks for joining me here on Shed Talk, and let's just get into this. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, and I'm so looking forward to this. I love talking about the things that affect us and the things that help us be a better version of ourselves, so I'm sure we're going to have some fun today.
And it was interesting because just before we got on, we started to talk about mental health, and you're an expert in this, and men over 50, and how many people don't know about this talk. And I wanted to dive right into that right away, and from your experience, because being a leadership coach, you see great CEOs and the problems that they have. So please open it up.
Yeah, well, the thing that I learned along the way, because my job for 30 years has been to help CEOs, entrepreneurs, boards, help to build great companies and make them better and better. And as a coach doing a lot of one-on-one coaching with CEOs in particular, the thing I found is there's this dark secret of the boardroom where a lot of them are completely burnt out and having mental health issues where their brain starts to short circuit. And in some cases, like their life is on the line, because if your brain gets too unhealthy, too worn out, too burnt out, it starts to have some very bad, scary thoughts, which nobody likes to talk about. And there's a story, well, that's what happens to weak people and mental health is for weak people. Well, that's a lie. A freaking lie. Like, I know the strongest, most accomplished CEOs and leaders, the more driven they are, the more likely they are to, quote, break their brain and have a mental health issue because it gets overloaded with stress. So it happens to everybody. It's just we don't talk about it because it doesn't make us feel cool. It's not the cocktail party conversation it's not a good opener at a cocktail party, let's just say, or at a family function.
So how do you recognize like a burnout in somebody that all of a sudden here they are, they're high performers, they're getting into it, and being a coach and recognizing, okay, this guy has some issues here. We better maybe open up and ask him a better question.
Well, we got trained on something called the mental health continuum that shows the 4 stages of mental health: green, yellow, orange, and red. And there's specific symptoms in each of them. And generally the symptoms are the mood and the change in mood. If someone's always a little bit grumpy, that doesn't mean they have a mental health issue. That means they're grumpy. It's just when the mood changes. So the change in mood, the change in the amount of sleep or the quality of sleep, the change in their anxiety, the change in their addictions. Everyone's hooked on something. Every high performer has some sort of coping mechanism. And when the coping mechanism becomes stronger and starts to really take over their life more and more, and what it could be anything from shopping to alcohol to who knows what. And the quality of their thinking, like the actual cognition, and then sickness. So if you go all the way across, you can see all of these things. Everyone changes differently, but some of these things start to fire up. Like someone might have panic attacks. Someone might not be able to sleep. Someone might have more anxiety than they have. Someone might have a lot of aches and pains or start getting sick all the time. Or another indication is social withdrawal, is they withdraw from people. But it's no matter what, these are all just impacts of incredible amounts of stress. And, if you know the stressors that are happening, you can kind of start to keep an eye up for it. But if you pay attention, you can normally see it if you choose to look for it.
So if you choose to look for it, have you seen any experience share that you've seen and said, okay, I've got to jump into this?
Yes, lots, like a lot. I often pull people aside because look, we have clients all around the world that we work with on a quarterly basis to help drive their growth strategy. So people and I can hear it in their voice, but I'll give you an example. This is a guy that actually was right in the middle between where you are and I are, a place called Kelowna, British Columbia, Canada. It's where a lot of Albertans go in the summer because they want to go to the lakes, and same from Vancouverites, we go there. So a bunch of buddies are up there and we're up surfing on a guy's boat and, chatting just like a bunch of guys would do. Had a great time. Mostly entrepreneurs. And then the guy's boat that we were on that day, who I got to know, he calls me one day and says, "Hey, can you give me a hand?" And his business is going through a bad, like he's going to lose his business. And he had a whole bunch of family members, particularly on his wife's side of the family, that invested in his business. So he's going to lose his business. He's going to lose millions of dollars for his spouse's family. Oh yeah, and by the way, he's probably going to lose his house and his cabin after 17 years of building a company. So as I'm listening to this, my mind's running to mathematics. Like this guy's not telling me. I'm like, hey, how are you doing? He's like, yeah, I'm all right. I said, no, no. Like, are you having any bad thoughts in your head, thoughts of hurting yourself? He's like, yeah. Because based on his scenario, putting myself in his shoes, 17 years in, gonna lose my business, my house, my cabin, and my pride. And so as we dug in, he was having a serious issue. And so we ended up working through it. And he was able to make the smoothest transition through it possible. And by the way, this guy's name is Michael. There's an interview on our site where he tells the whole story. Like at one point, he tried to take his life, and he was on the edge. And again, I've been through this with a lot of people, unfortunately. So we knew what to do. Got him working with a psychologist or counselor regularly, checking in regularly, rebuilding up his own his resilience, like really taking care of himself. Because what happens when people start to have these high pressure situations, they stop doing the things that charge their batteries. Now, whether it's eating well, exercise, quality time with friends, quality time with kids, sleep, when we're under that kind of pressure, almost all those things stop and then we increase the decline. So again, I could tell you lots of other stories, but that's one where I now ask all the time, "Hey, how you doing?" When I sense it, are you having any thoughts of hurting yourself? And then if they aren't, I said, well, your brain will start playing tricks on you in this kind of stress. If you are, just promise me that you're going to call me or text me and I'll help you figure out what to do. Because it's for them, it's shameful and embarrassing and it's scary too.
So when you see these guys in this situation and entrepreneurs, and here we are, you scale up this and you talk to CEOs about growing and not having that burnout, having that conversation with them versus a family member, because you must see it when you're telling and coaching them through to the next level to grow, you must see it totally different. Like that whole concept of growing a business, then all of a sudden, because you can't grow a business and grow your life at the same time. Like you have to be in sync. Like
Yes.
you have to be in sync both ways. You
Ideally.
try to be.
Ideally.
Yeah, ideally. When guys are going through that, how do you recognize them? Like, so you take this gentleman that you were just talking about. You're talking to him about, okay, his mental illness is okay. He's got suicide. He's ready to lose his business. This is all going. Then all of a sudden, does it come to, let's ask a better question and say, it's okay to lose your business. It's okay this is going to happen. Life still goes on. How did you get him through the funk? And did he get back into his business and scale it up?
No, he ended up stepping away. His investors shut it down. It was not. So at the end of the day, here's the way it's simple. If you think of someone as being a 5-year-old child who's innocent and wanting their best and needs support and is scared, if you connect with that part of every person, because that's kind of what's happening inside them, and then you just hold their hand and walk down the path with them. And at the end of the day, that's all it is. So with him, we talked all the time. And of course we're like, hey, maybe you lose it. Let's make the best of this horrible situation. And by the way, he's off starting another business now. Like he's had some time to recover and away he goes again, which is awesome. I'm excited for him. But people need a partner because they're ashamed and afraid and they need support. Also, at that point, they're not working with a full deck. Like they have often about 50% of their cognitive abilities. Like they get dumb because the stress just puts pressure on the brain. So and we have a chapter in your Oxygen Mask First called Resilience Rituals. This is this one here, which is behind me. And it's about how do you build up resilience. So if you get knocked down, you don't hit the ground. Or if you do get knocked down, how do you build yourself back up? So getting them doing those things and then just having conversations and taking away the stigma and the guilt and the shame about it, because it happens a lot. And people just need to be understood. They don't need to be told, well, you should be so happy you've got your family's health. This is where families screw it up, hey? Like if you don't understand mental health, families make it worse. Like I am not, here's the way I look at it. I am not an ER surgeon. And if you and I are out hanging out in Kelowna and you break a leg and it's a bad break, I'm not going to try to fix it. I'm going to stabilize you, call 911, get you to a surgeon. With mental health, when the brain breaks, which happens in these scenarios, it's also, we don't know how to fix it. Unfortunately, families think they can. And they give them a whole bunch of crappy advice, make them feel worse because they're not trained. They don't know how to do surgery. Well, don't mess with someone's head. Get them to a psychologist, or if it's really bad, get them to the ER to go and get some emergency help. But most people make it worse for their families inadvertently. They don't know.
Well, let's get into your book because you just dived into the chapter. Let's just talk a little bit about that, the resilience.
Mm-hmm.
And because that's a big, powerful point right there, and how to build off of that.
Right. And when you're reading your bio and you doing bodybuilding and stuff like that, like about taking care of yourself, right? And if you're training for something, you gotta, I've got friends who have done bodybuilding. So you gotta do incredible nutrition and workouts and really take care of yourself. So as an athlete, you need to do that. And for ourselves as humans, we're kind of like an electric car. We need to be charged up. And resilience rituals are just that. Like, what are the things, if you choose to take really good care of yourself, what would that be for your body, for your mind, for your spirit, right? And in our work we do as CEOs, we make sure we set goals, work, life, and then for ourself. And that's what I'm talking about, charging up yourself and whatever you need. And it's not rocket science, but a lot of people under the pressure of work and building a great company or building a team within the company or just doing their job and all the things we commit to in life, there's nothing left for us. And we're the power source. So we're smart enough to charge our electric cars, but we often don't charge ourselves. And then we ended up broken, out of battery on the side of the highway. So resilience is just charging your battery. Like for me, writing, exercise, almost everyone has exercise, right? It's good for the body. It's good. But writing, exercise in the morning, like I did this morning, even though I was out late last night, and writing in a book is like therapeutic and powerful for me. And the writing is great for my body. The writing is great for my mind. The exercise is obviously great for my body. And then for my spirit, I love adventures. Like I'm super social. My partner, she's super social. I love adventures, like physical adventures. Like me and a bunch of buddies for years would go to the racetrack up in just in the Okanagan called Area 27. Go race cars, go race go-karts. Hanging out with a bunch of friends and doing that kind of stuff charges me. Or going boating or traveling with my kids charges me in my spirit. And you feel alive and recharged. But people often need permission to do those things. And they think they could run around on an empty battery and function, and it doesn't work.
So when you're talking to some of these guys that you're coaching and you're doing talks, what are the examples that they've given you that has worked for them? So that's worked for you. What are the other ones worked for other people?
Exercise is always on the list. Yeah. Many people will have either meditation, writing, prayer, reading of whatever religious text it is for them. Some practice like that. And for the spirit, it is wild. Some people like to cook. One guy, this executive in India, his was called making the grass green. He manually watered his grass every day, trying to have the greenest grass in the neighborhood. But for him, that's almost like a meditation. One guy was having a scotch and a cigar on his deck at night. Like people have lots of different things. Some people it's social. Some people it's by themselves. Some people it's painting. Some people it's going to art galleries. Some people it's playing video games. Like I have seen like one lawyer, he would work 4 days a week and then paint on Fridays. It's everything under the sun. It's just what basically it makes you feel alive and almost like sparkly inside. Like you feel it, like there's,
So guys, someone's going to go this and they just can't find meaning. They can't find themselves. They're just lost right now. And I'm depressed. You know what? I'm ready to lose my business. You know what? I know I have to recharge myself. This is just a phase I'm going through. I lost my business 10 years ago. I'm going to make it up again. I know the pattern. All right. And now here I am as an entrepreneur again, doing this. What do you say to them to say, okay, because it's pretty tough to all of a sudden, it's easy for you guys. Okay. You guys haven't made.
Who's helping you? At the end of the day, The first question is who? Who is helping you?
Now,
who's your coach?
Say you don't even have a coach.
Then you're screwed. Yeah. Nobody can do this. This is not a solo team sport.
Yeah.
Right? Like I am not an expert on bodybuilding. I know it's not a solo team sport.
Right.
You need nutritionists, you need trainers, you need physio, you need all of these other things, right? To compete. And you and I haven't talked about this, but from the bit I know, there isn't an individual sport on the planet that I know of. Even running, people at the highest level of running that looks individual, they have all kinds of trainers and people around them. So who's your team? Like nobody that builds a notable business does it alone. Nobody. And the people that do it, that really do it, they have psychologist or a counselor, they'll have a coach, they'll have mentors, they'll have a board, and their accountant and their lawyer will be strategic thought partners, and they'll be a part of something like, EO or YPO or McKay forums that we have in Canada, or tech or Vistage, whatever. Like, they are surrounded by support. But people that do it alone, they don't usually go too far. It's too hard.
Hey, take a minute and smash that subscribe button, and let's get back to the episode.
And it's interesting because a lot of men, all of a sudden they get over 50, and then all of a sudden they're recently divorced, then all of a sudden their kids are away, and all of a sudden they're drinking too much, their health problems are coming into a play, and it's like, yes. Oh, here I am, and oh man, woe me, the health issues are coming aboard, and
yes,
how do I get myself back on track mentally?
It's not who, it's not how, it's who.
Yeah. No, it's interesting how many men don't realize your whole life you have a support group that has to bring together, like you said. That's the first time I've heard that. All of a sudden, name one sport that's an individual sport
there isn't one.
There isn't one.
There isn't. Not at the high level. So here's an example. I just interviewed this guy, Gord Lowndes. He was the CEO of Sleep Country Canada. Great Canadian success story. He was the guy that built it, and it's called Cracked Up because he ended up in a bad spot, hooked on crack cocaine. He got to the point where he was pumping it into his arms. And he pretty well, this book is gritty and graphic, and I love it. And the interview with him, he tells more than some people would want to know. And, he tells his story, but at some point what happens to each, so I call it, as we go through growth, when we're young and driven, we take off and we're running on dirty fuel, like dirty rocket fuel, anger, stress, gotta prove it, I'm not good enough, all these underlying stories that get us off the ground, and we all have it. The people who are actually loving their lives in their 50s and 60s switch to a clean fuel, purpose, impact, making a difference for others. But you got to do a lot of freaking therapy to get there. You got to clean out, you got to clean out the system that gave you the dirty fuel that worked in your 20s and 30s like nothing else. But the ones that are happy and thriving in their 50s and 60s, they switch fuel sources by cleaning out. And the amount of people that do counselors and therapy and spiritual explorations, like most of them, the happy ones, because we all have dirty fuel. That's why we got successful. And when you switch, it's just a different game. And a lot of people haven't got to that because it takes self-reflection and growth, and you become a way better leader. Your business becomes notably better. And then your life. So my whole thing is I want to see people build great, big, enduring businesses and become a better version of themselves at the same time, the best that they can. But a lot of people don't do that because they're not comfortable looking in the mirror. They're not comfortable getting the help. And then never mind, their business doesn't grow as much, or it does, but then their life ain't great.
Do you remember the time on the dirty fuel and the transition in your life? What was that trend? What age group or where you were at for that transition?
So I was working with this coach for a while, for about 10 years, and helping me to work through things. And I was doing a lot of reflection and growth. And I started to realize this, like I was driven by, so in chapter 1 of your Oxygen Mask First, one of the most important chapters is called Head Success versus Heart Success. Head success is achievement. I've done it. I've made it. I've got the big house and the fancy cars and the great vacations and filled my bank account, and I'm recognized and accomplished. Heart success is, which is more of the source of the dirty fuel. And the heart success is helping people, making a difference, making an impact, real purpose, right? And we're not all perfect on it, but for me to switch, it was a lot of work over the years. And I still got work to do. But I love what I do to the point that it's dangerous because I want to do too much of it. I also have a bit of an addictive personality too, so that doesn't help. But it's amazing. It was a lot of self-reflection and personal growth, and basically just being way less of an asshole. Like I am still just as driven, but I'm less likely to punch people in the face, and I'm more likely to put my arm around them and help them to become better. I actually get better results, and it takes less energy. I just had to, get a lot of stuff out of my system, and I'm still doing it. I don't know if that answers your question, but yeah.
Well, what was the one time in your life, just a changing point, that one
Sure.
aha moment that just like, okay, here it is. You're writing books, you're getting everything going, you're talking about scaling up, you're meeting all the CEOs, but what was the one thing in your life?
Mm.
Because there's usually a part in your life
Yep.
that changes
Yep.
everything. When
Yep.
was
Uh,
that?
I think it's when I got divorced.
Oh,
Yep. I had published Your Oxygen Mask first, and everything around me was going great, but my personal relationship wasn't. So, my kids were young, so I didn't really, I wasn't, it didn't, my daughter was 13, I think, when I got separated. Um, and when finally I started going down that road, because my kid's mom, Angela, she's a great person, but we were just going very different directions. And the more I went my direction, it created more stress for her, and it just wasn't working. Like we were creating a lot of stress. And when I realized, which I didn't want to have to go down there, I was hoping there'd be another path, but when it was clear that's what I needed to do, came a massive amount of growth, because I think a lot of I was limited by the fact that that relationship was so challenging and so hard, and I believed that I could fix anything, which is not true. That ego is wonderful and dangerous.
mm.
Um, but I think when I finally accepted that and found a great and graceful way to work through that to the best of my abilities, to the point where we get along way better now than we did back then. But I think that was a big turning point, and in our language, it's like confronting the brutal facts, dealing with something that you don't want to deal with, and you would hope you don't have to deal with. I think that would be one of the biggest catalysts.
So when you talk about growth, let's use that same analogy or that same situation you're in. You said, I learned a lot and I grew. What's the interpretation of growth during that stage of your life? Was it learning or was it growth?
Well,
Be-
learning is like potential growth. Learning does not mean you get the growth, right? So it
Mhm.
was it was so if you think of um really effective leadership is asking challenging questions and creating an environment where people thrive and want to do the right things. Right? That's ultimate leadership. Ineffective leadership is telling people what to do, directing, and right. So it's directing versus just asking and creating a container for performance. And so if you look at that spectrum, so no matter what it was, if I go from myself, I would be more likely to be telling people what to do than listening and asking. That's just probably one of 10 variables. So, but that only comes through self-reflection. It comes from when you see something you've done and had an impact, and you see how it's subpar and that there could be a better way. And a lot of it has to do with changing your thoughts, changing your behaviors, and getting yourself to be, like Jim Collins has this concept called level 5 leadership. And it's getting closer to level 5. So, whether it was, people in my firm or people in my life, showing up more like a level 5 leader than a level 3, which is you got to get out of your own way. And I don't know if that's specific enough, if that's answering your question, but
It's getting more into like you're the leader. You're a leader, okay? Leading the people, not telling the people. How did you put that into perspective in the same in during the divorce? Because you keep going back into growth, okay? And having to understand, okay, I'm growing as an individual, okay, during this growth stage, because I have daughters, I have kids, because now it's a mindset, okay, because you're dealing with your mind and emotions and everything. Now, being able to say, okay, which direction of leadership are you going to go? Are you going to the dictator leadership? Okay, this is how this is going to be done, or the leader? So how did
yeah.
you
So
manage that?
yeah, that's a great question. It's like one little incremental thing at a time. I am surrounded by spectacular leaders, spectacular CEOs and mentors, and even people on my own and my team. So my nature is to notice when things go very well without creating friction, and notice it, watch when other people do it or watch when I do it, and see the response, because you can watch it, you can see in people's eyes, have I impacted them positively or have I shut them down? And so I think I have these pictures in my head of great leaders and all these different attributes. And I would just pick. So here's the answer. I would pick situation by situation. So this is one person on my team. And I know that when we would disagree, it would shut him down. We would have a dispute and we wouldn't be able to move ahead. So I'm like, okay, I got to figure that one out. How do I get him, who's this very smart, dedicated guy? How do I learn how to communicate with him in a way where we can disagree? find an agreement, and then both move ahead. So it's situationally by situation with all of these different relationships.
And it basically comes down to asking a better question because we all want to communicate. We all want to be
Yes.
heard. And it's like, all right, so I'm obviously asking you the wrong question. So let me ask a better question because we need to be on the same path. And that's the hard
It,
part is finding that.
it is. And even what I would notice, like with myself, what I try to do, and sometimes I've gone too far, is I try not to tell anybody what to do. No, at my best, and as my team calls it, when I'm in Coach Kevin mode, I ask great questions and people feel empowered and I'm not giving any direction. So that's the ultimate, is to only ask questions, which is so darn hard. But the younger version of me would do a lot of directing and a lot of telling. And even with my kids, asking them, letting them make their own decisions. The thing, like one of the things I was explaining to another CEO, he's working on this with his daughter, and I worked on it with my daughter as well, is to be able to see it so that when they share things with you, you can hear them, you can empathize with them, and you can connect with them, but not fix it. Right? Guys want to fix stuff. And even with our own family. So I worked on this a lot with my daughter in particular, and even my partner with her, trying to understand and connect and empathize, not fix. Because if you watch, as soon as you start fixing, they shut down. Because people don't usually want to be fixed.
So do you look at that as well? Say you don't want to fix them. We're not going to say, okay, this is what you got to do. But would you turn around and say, I'm going to give you an experience to share. When I was your age, what happened to me was this, and the outcome was this. And it could have been a whole different story. So more, I'm going to give you an experiential share.
Yeah, I'm also trying to be limiting on that as well.
Oh, okay.
With other CEOs, that can usually work. But even with kids, they don't want to listen to dad that much. So, I,
That
I,
is true.
I genuinely ask, so what do you think? What are you going to do? So getting their views and their opinions, like letting them make the choice. So that is the key, where a lot of people, you can go from giving a statement to an experience share, which is a disguised statement sometimes. The even ultimate is, what do you think? What do you recommend? What do you want to do? Okay, great. Or, hey, have you thought about this? Experience share is powerful. Like, I like it. But even in personal relationships, I try not to, because it can come across as packaged advice.
How true that is it's that three things: feel, felt, found. Hey, I understand how you feel.
Oh,
I
exactly.
felt what they
You
mean,
can
but I
smell it a
found.
mile away.
Yeah, everybody knows that
Exactly.
line. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. Like when I became a coach, it's interesting. You see when people are new and we have a great desire to help, but a lot of people get lost in wanting to overly help and fix their families. Leave them the hell alone. Love them. They don't need to be fixed. They're fine. Fix yourself. But you notice, and I used to be the guy that wanted to go fix everybody else, and that's usually very irritating. So most people have the answers. You just got to ask and what they think, and they often just want support or endorsement or clarification. And if they, I will still throw in stories once in a while, but I'm just careful with that because I can, again, if you watch their eyes, they tune out pretty fast.
So let's talk about, you got the new book coming out right now.
It's the four forces of growth. Basically, if your auction mass first is about growing yourself, scaling up is about the systems to scale an org. The four forces of growth is just, how do you make sure, if you're leading an organization, you don't inadvertently make choices that kill the growth of a company. Most companies can grow forever. They don't run out of opportunity. Most companies can grow 10 to 15% per year easily for 20, 30, 40 years, but they don't. And the root of the book, and I saw with a lot of clients over the years, is they just work hard on the wrong things because they lose sight of what actually drives growth. So there's a simple model pulled from the four forces of flight, what makes an airplane fly. Tell people to self-assess from themselves as a leader in the org overall. If they're doing enough of the things that will actually create growth of a business. It's real simple stuff, but in the middle of it, people get lost.
That was amazing. Where are we going to find the book? Where do we find your stuff? Where does everything come to play?
Yeah, I mean, Amazon is the place where everything is, the everything store. Yeah, so you can search on Amazon. It's there on our website, Lawrence & Co. It's lawrenceandco.com. There's lots of interviews with great growth CEOs, articles, blogs, podcasts, and all the information on our books and tools. Like our nature is, we offer everything we can to people to let them figure things out and do, those who want to do it themselves. We have a firm that helps to drive this for companies if they want help, but if they don't, we still share the resources because we like to help people.
So where do you do your talks? Like you're obviously doing speaking tours and you're all over. How do
Yes.
people get a hold of you to talk at their organization?
Yeah, just on the website, lawrenceandco.com, you'll find us. We've got one coming up in Mexico City in Feb. We got another one in Australia. Like I'm going to be doing a lot of speak. I want to get this book in front of 100,000 CEOs. CEOs need it. Once they see it, they can't unsee it. They keep showing it and teaching it to their teams because it's so simple and obvious. So yeah, if I can help in some way, I'm here to help. This is a fun game for me.
Awesome. Well, you know what? Thank you very much for being on Shed Talk, and that was awesome. Thanks, Kevin. Like and share and hit that button and everything out there. Thanks, Kev.
Great. Thanks for having me.
Now you know. Shed Talk.